coverage you can count on. This is KCBD News Channel 11's Daybreak Today.
Now at 6 o'clock, Lubbock Fire Rescue is increasing its response ahead of today's extreme wildfire risk. A look at how you can help prevent grass fires is up ahead. Plus, Lubbock County commissioners are investing more money to improve criminal court proceedings. We'll explain how that money is being used. And Americans took on a record amount of credit card debt last year, and you might not be surprised where the money is being spent. Today is Tuesday, February 27th. You're watching Daybreak Today. Good morning to you. Thanks for joining us. I'm Angie Wynn.
Good morning. I'm Steve Devine.
And we have a lot of red behind us this morning because it is a first alert weather day.
Right. And again, we do that to call your attention
Yes.
to weather that's likely going to just interfere with the general flow of things. Let's take a look at our highlights today. And it's not just here in the viewing area, but you can see it extends north and south and east and west of us. And breaking these highlights down, first, the high wind warning in the area shaded here, including Lubbock. This is where wind gusts near 60 miles per hour, near. A little below, a little bit above, but we may see gusts closer to 65 in the northwestern part of the viewing area, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. today. With the high winds and the warmth, a fire weather warning issued by the National Weather Service, also known as a red flag warning, by the way, and this too in effect until 9 p.m. to highlight the critical wildfire danger today with the winds and the warmth. Afternoon temperatures in the 70s will peak near 80, but windy conditions, as I mentioned, coming up for us today. Now, a little bit of wind relief in the forecast. We'll look in on that, and a chance of some showers showing up in the 7-day forecast.
Good to know. Thank you, Steve. Well, due to the high winds Steve mentioned, Lubbock Fire Rescue is increasing its response across the South Plains today. LFR wants everyone to take precaution. For instance, they recommend not parking on grass or starting burn piles or fire pits. They also say you should be sure chains or straps are not hanging from cars. The department is deploying other members of its team across the entire state, all in preparation for expected fire weather. Meanwhile, crews here in Lubbock are changing response tactics.
Again, gets more manpower there and gets more resources and water to the scene, so we can again get ahead of that, the potential of it spreading.
As of this morning, LFR is at a level 1 response, which means it will bring an extra engine with every call with the grass fire risk. Dry conditions and high winds are increasing the risk of wildfires all across Texas. Multiple fires are burning right now in the Panhandle. Joshua Ramirez is at the News Now desk with a look at the flames and how much land has been burned so far. Joshua, what do we know?
Angela, right now we are monitoring 3 different fires all burning in the Amarillo area. Here's a look at the Grapevine fire in Gray County, just south of Pampa. The blaze prompted a voluntary evacuation order after it sparked on Monday evening. Smoke from this one can be seen for miles as crews work to put it out this morning. Texas A&M Forest Service reports 20,000 acres have burned and that fire is only 10% contained. And more flames could be seen in Hutchinson County as crews there battle with what's being called the Smokehouse Creek fire just north of Stinnett. That fire has burned about 40,000 acres and is not contained at all at this point. And the third fire north of Amarillo in Moore County has burned more than 4,000 acres, and the A&M Forest Service reports that blaze just 5% contained right now. Angie.
All right. Thank you, Joshua. Here on the South Plains, the Lubbock County Sheriff's Office is investigating a house fire that left a man dead in South Lubbock. First responders found 55-year-old Gregory Hicks unresponsive outside a home just off Highway 87 Monday morning after crews were called to the 1400 block of County Road 7360. Hicks died at the hospital, but a woman was rescued from the home. The cause of the fire is under investigation. Staying in Lubbock County, the courthouse will soon see changes in how they handle criminal cases. For the past 20 years, the courthouse has designated 3 courts to hear criminal trials and 3 for civil cases. Now, one of those civil courtrooms will begin hearing criminal cases as well. The Lubbock County DA's office has struggled with a backlog of priority cases since the pandemic, which has in turn caused overcrowding inside the jail. Despite initial costs, which are more than $250,000 a year, the DA's office insists it will save the county money in the long run.
If we're going to add 33% more courtrooms and more prosecutors, then hopefully we can move these cases much quicker and get them out of the jail quicker and therefore alleviate some of the overcrowding.
The DA's office anticipates hiring another attorney and 2 investigators by October for the court reassignments, which will be a total investment of more than $500,000. Americans have reached record levels of credit card debt. As Amy Kiley reports, new data shows most of what they're spending their money on is at the grocery store.
The Consumer Confidence Index is out today, but a simpler measure of how Americans feel about the economy might be a trip to the supermarket.
Families still had to put food on the table in the face of a food price surge.
Wage growth isn't making up for historically high prices completely. A new report shows record U.S. credit card debt in the 4th quarter of last year. It's not as bad when adjusted for inflation, and that inflation is cooling. But in the meantime, Kellogg's is now advertising cereal as a dinner food.
If you think about the cost of cereal for a family versus what they might otherwise do, that's going to be much more affordable.
And with a lawsuit filed yesterday, the Federal Trade Commission is trying to block the largest supermarket merger in American history. Kroger and Albertsons say uniting would offset the cost of their unionized workforces. The FTC argues the deal would reduce competition and raise food prices. Its suit could be a follow-up to a campaign promise.
There are still too many corporations in America ripping people off. Price gouging, junk fees, greedflation, shrinkflation.
I'm Amy Kiley reporting.
It is 6:06 on your Tuesday. We're checking in now with Steve Devine at the First Alert Forecast Center. What do you have for us this hour, Steve?
Well, not much wind at the moment, but unfortunately today is going to be one of our very windy days here in the West Texas area. There's a little bit of a haze on the horizon with the breeze that we have already, a little bit of dust being picked up. Generally mostly cloudy. Lubbock Airport is 64 degrees. That wind is already in a 10 to 20 mile per hour range, but it's going to be ramping up. And again, those weather highlights that I mentioned earlier, the high wind warning potentially for gusts near 60 miles per hour, perhaps 65 in the northwestern part of the viewing area, and then the fire weather warning. Both of these warnings in effect until 9 p.m. today. Weather Service first responders want to call your attention to the critical wildfire danger today. Fires start easily, spread rapidly, difficult to control. Be very careful outside. As Angie mentioned earlier, anything that might generate a spark, no open flames in the area. Don't drive a vehicle over the dry grass in the area. A wind advisory in effect for our eastern and southern areas. In this region, wind gusts in a 50 mile per, up to around 50 miles per hour, a little more likely. So those are the gusts. Here's a look at the sustained winds, now at about 10 to 20 miles per hour. But as we head into the lunch hour, they'll start to ramp up. It gets windy. Notice that westerly direction with the speeds increasing to about 30 to 40 here in the Lubbock area, up here on the Cap Rock, potentially 35 to 45 over the northwestern viewing area. Again, these are the sustained winds. Hold on to the steering wheel today, especially on north-south oriented roads like Interstate 27, Highway 87, because that wind is just going to broadside the vehicle, and it's going to be gusty. So that means that it's going to be buffeting the vehicle back and forth. And notice the sustained winds continuing here into at least early evening. It'll be still on the windy side through at least the evening. Highs today, mid-70s to the low 80s. Lubbock is headed for about 80 degrees on our high temperature today. And tomorrow, with the arrival of a cold front, much cooler, the high 53. That'll be chilly with the breeze at about 10 to 20 miles per hour. That chance of precip, that's really late Wednesday night into Thursday morning. Some light showers expected here in our area. Again, very light. Might even have a little bit of a very light wintry mix Thursday morning. Angie.
All right, good to know. Thank you, Steve. It's 6:08, still to come on Daybreak today. Lubbock Rotary Clubs are teaming up to bring much-needed donations to an important organization on the South Plains. Plus, EV charging stations are headed to the South Plains. We'll look into a federal program helping make it happen. Stay with us. You're watching Daybreak today on KCBD News Channel 11.